We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Monday. We're starting out a new week, and this is just going to be me today. It's been a while since I've done with just me, so I thought, what the fuck? Give everybody else a break. Maybe not give you a break because you have to deal with this shit, but we'll do what we can. But we're starting out another week, and things are getting decidedly worse in this country with regards to the economy and the future outlook of what's going to happen to regular people in this country because of this tariff situation. Now, last Monday, several CEOs from Home Depot, Target, Walmart, and some others sat down with Donald Trump and said, listen, you got to do something with these tariffs because the fucking shelves will be empty in 2 weeks. Everybody's worried about the price of things and how that's going to go up. But in all honesty, that's not the biggest problem we have here. It doesn't matter what things cost if they don't exist. And I'll tell you what's going on here. China is holding strong to their alleged negotiations. Donald Trump continues to say he's talking to China. China continues to say we're not talking. Donald Trump's in a tough situation because he made these threats and he expects people to back down. But China's not going to back down. They're not even going to negotiate with him because, as they've said, as a lot of people have said, we can't trust him. He'll say one thing 1 minute and then he will change it. I mean, keep in mind that Donald Trump negotiated trade treaties with Canada and Mexico. And part of those treaties was there would be no tariffs. Donald Trump now claims that treaty is the worst treaty ever, in spite of the fact when he wrote it, apparently he forgot, he said it was the best treaty ever. But he's broken those treaties with Canada and Mexico, and this is why they aren't willing to negotiate with him either. But China knows all this. 1 minute he does one thing, next minute he pulls back. It does no good to negotiate with Donald Trump because you can't trust anything he's going to tell you. So anyway, the problem isn't going to be the prices. The problem is going to be scarcity or availability of these products. You maybe heard the story that China kind of gave Donald Trump the middle finger the other day. They sent something like 200,000 containers, but they were empty. Now, why would you send 200,000 empty containers if you weren't trying to make a point? And I think China made a point. Now, there are ships coming in to the United States, the East and West Coast, every day. Every day there is ships coming in. But we're finding out now on the West Coast, the last ship will be in on the 28th of April, which is today. And on the East Coast, it'll be the first week of May. Then after that, nothing's coming. So when these CEOs said in a couple of weeks, we'll have empty shelves, they weren't fucking around about that. They were serious about that. If we aren't getting shipments from China, there won't be product for people to buy. So what's left is going to go way up in price, and then there's going to be no more for whatever period of time. This is what we're waiting on right now. This is really going to happen. And I think some of the people around Donald Trump in his cabinet, Trump-Lafucks in general, and certainly these big oligarchs that supported and voted for Donald Trump are now realizing that they're going to be fucked. They're in trouble because it doesn't matter what taxes have been, what tax breaks they've been given. If they have nothing to sell, they don't have a business. And we could be looking at tens of thousands of businesses filing bankruptcy, in all seriousness. Now, the smart thing would be for Donald Trump just to pull back and say, whoops, I made a mistake. I'm not doing tariffs. Let's just go back to normal. First of all, he won't do that because he can't admit he's wrong. He won't admit he's wrong. Secondly, even if he does do that, there is still going to be a disruption. There's going to be problems. So we're kind of in a tight spot right now. And as I've said before, I'm kind of looking forward to this ultimate crash, not because I like the idea of what it's going to do to us and all the people in this country and the country itself. It's because it seems like this is the only way some people are going to learn. This is the only way Republicans are going to get a spine and push back against Donald Trump. They have to suffer through an absolute catastrophe. And that's what we're working on. Now, in addition to that catastrophe, I'm recording this on Sunday night, and I've been hearing about the stock futures. And people are preparing for a huge drop in the stock market today as you listen to that. We don't know exactly what happened. These were just futures, but the prospects don't look good. You know, Donald Trump will talk about how the stock market went up here, went up there. Here's what you have to understand. In February, the Dow Jones hit its record peak at 45,000. It is now currently between 39 and 40,000. So even if you get a surge of 2 or 3,000 points, you're still well below where you were in February. That's not a win. That's trying to come back and then dropping down again. So if there is a crash of sorts in the stock market today, that's just going to make it worse. Keep in mind, when Donald Trump left office, the stock market was at about 30,000. That's where it was. Donald Trump claimed it was the best stock market ever. It was not. Joe Biden had the best stock market ever because when he left office, it was in the 40s and ultimately ended at 45,000 points in the Dow. GDP was going up. Everything was going well for Joe Biden. Now, since Donald Trump has taken over, they're looking at negative movement in the GDP. Negative. It's been a while since we've seen negative movement, maybe back around COVID. And since I bring up COVID, that's important. That's an important thing to consider. COVID really messed with our supply chain. I know the Republicans love to talk about the supply chain and how it was Biden's fault. But when you don't have ships coming from China and the tariffs on all the other countries, the supply chain is going to be ruined. And it's going to be worse than during COVID. I usually don't like to give bad news, but we have to ready yourself for it. And as I've said, maybe this is what it takes. Maybe an absolute disaster is going to be what's necessary to get people to realize that Donald Trump is an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he's doing everything he can to ruin the country. Now, people see Donald Trump as evil, and he probably is a little evil. But I think the bigger concern is his incompetence, his unwillingness to say when he's wrong. That's almost more dangerous than somebody being evil. Now, something else I will bring up, and we'll talk more about it on the show. Today, Mike Johnson is looking to put Donald Trump's big, beautiful budget up for a vote. Now, this is a problem because we know in that budget there is a cut to Medicaid, a serious cut to Medicaid. Now, the Republicans will say, no, it's not. It doesn't say that anywhere in the bill, and that's true. But these cuts are coming against various departments, and one department is one where Medicaid is in. And when you want to cut $880 billion, there's only one way to do it. That's through Medicaid. So they're doing it, but they're not saying it, and they think they can fly under the radar. Well, that's not working out too well. In fact, some Republicans in the House are saying, yeah, I'm not signing that bitch. Why would they sign it? I mean, it's like political suicide. If they sign it and they agree to it, come 2026, they're going to have a lot of problems because they're going to have to explain why they cut money from Medicaid. So a lot of these Republicans are having difficulty with it. Now, whether it'll be enough or not, I'm not sure. But at least the Democrats are doing something to try to lift awareness. What the Democrats are doing, Hakeem Jeffries and Cory Booker are staging a sit-in on the steps of the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Now, they were out there yesterday morning at 6 a.m. and they were there throughout the day. I don't know if they're staying there up and through until through tomorrow, but that's possible. And we know a lot of people are coming out to join them. So what that means is these Republicans are going to have to walk up those steps with all these people saying, do not sign that motherfucker. We'll see who they're more afraid of. Are they more afraid of Donald Trump or are they more afraid of their constituents? If they're smart, they're going to be afraid of the constituents because they're the ones that are going to vote those motherfuckers out in 2026. Donald Trump's approval rating is in the shitter. His overall approval rating is like at 39%, the lowest rating for a president at this point in their term in 70 years. As far as the economy goes and inflation goes, more than 60% of the people disapprove of what Donald Trump is doing. These poll numbers are tanking. Now, I heard Scott Bessent being interviewed, and he was confronted with those poll polling amounts. He says, well, I don't know. The polls are one thing, but it's how people are reacting. People are still spending money. Well, yes, they are spending money. This is carryover from Joe Biden's economy. But Donald Trump is sinking this motherfucker quickly. It's only been 3 months. Like I say, mid-May, June, you're going to feel the pinch, and it's going to be substantial. And the economy is going to be fucking rocked. All right, in this show, like I say, it's just me. We are going to talk about some of the news stories of the day. And I've got some emails. I've got some emails coming in. Somebody wrote me a note and says, I really like the emails, but you changed your format. I didn't change the format because I don't have a format. The format is whatever I do on that particular day. If I do a live or if I have guests on, this isn't a formal show like a lot of podcasts try to do. This is a conversation every day, and we talk about the things that are important, get some insights from a lot of people. And I do read emails from time to time. So some emails are coming up. Just hold tight. We'll get to them eventually. Now, this was a story, this first one that caught my attention. And at first I thought it was appalling. And then after that, I said, cool, you go ahead and do your thing. President Donald Trump on Sunday blamed radical left Democrats for recent disruptions and confrontations at town hall events held by Republican lawmakers, saying the disruptors are being paid to infiltrate and should not be treated nicely. That's code from Donald Trump to go ahead, get violent, punch him in the nose, punch him in the eye. I'll pay for your legal fees. We've heard it before from Donald Trump, and that's what he's suggesting. Now, posting on his Truth Social account on Sunday, having returned from his trip to Rome, that debacle for the funeral of Pope Francis, Trump angrily brought up the trend of disruptions at town hall events, which capture the media's attention, and the Republicans are astroturfed moments designed to make them look bad and foster a false impression that the Republican voters who are upset about cuts to government. Trump reiterated that view in his comments on Truth Social, writing that the radical left Democrats are paying a fortune to have people infiltrate town halls. You know as well as I do, that's absolute bullshit. That's not true. Absolutely not true. I mean, we've seen situations where people are heckled by people wearing red Make America Great Again hats. Donald Trump is so delusional, he thinks that only the Democrats dislike him and all the Republicans still like him. Please explain to me how you can pretty much destroy the livelihoods of farmers and still think they're on your side. Maybe some are, but they're stupid. But what they're seeing at these events are Republicans who are angry, and justifiably so. So if Donald Trump wants to start some shit and allow people to get violent, which is what it sounds like he wants to do, at first I thought that's abhorrent, that's terrible. Then I thought, well, okay, you want to do that, you go do your thing, because we're going to have Republicans beating up Republicans. It's not just Democratic dissenters. It is Republicans that are losing their livelihoods, their homes, their farms, their jobs, all because of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is so oblivious that he doesn't think they're angry with him. Well, like we always say, fuck around and find out. Go ahead, Donald Trump. Sick your mad dogs on the people that are talking badly of you at the town halls. And guess what you'll find? You'll find that people that would have voted for you 2 and 3 times before, but guess what? They're not going to support you anymore. They don't like you as it is. If you send attack dogs after them, then it's going to be a bigger problem for Republicans. I've heard people say that with Donald Trump's current approval rating, at that point, if he's like that in November of next year or November of 2026, there's no way the Republicans take the House. It's absolutely a foregone conclusion that the Democrats will win. So you just keep it up, Donnie. Keep doing the shit, keep fucking up the country, and then go after your own people because you're dumb enough to fucking do that. Now, the story on Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries started a sit in on Capitol Hill Sunday, as I mentioned. Compared the United States today to the time of the Civil War, referencing a quote from General Ulysses Grant that there are two parties in America now, patriots and traitors. And I think we can go along with that. I mean, we've got Pete Hegseth with Russian spies. We've got the Secretary of Defense with spies from Russia on speed dial on his phone. We've got little or no national security. We've got Elon Musk talking to Vladimir Putin, and we've got Donald Trump siding with Russia over Ukraine. Yeah, we got some traitors out there. I know the Republicans love to say that Democrats are traitors, but the evidence would say otherwise, don't you think? Now, several Democrats took part in the hours-long sit-in on Capitol Hill against the budget proposals from Donald Trump and Republican lawmakers led by Jeffries and, as I said, Cory Booker. Now, after hearing from Reverend William Barber, who talked about putting principles over party, Jeffrey brought up the Civil War to describe the current climate in the United States. Now, I don't know if they are going to have the sit-in tomorrow, but it's distinctly possible. There's going to be a lot of noise made because they're scheduled to vote on it. Now, I don't know that the Republicans have enough votes to pass this thing. It didn't sound like they did because there was a number of them saying, I'm not voting for this bullshit. And they've got a slim majority. So they're going to be hard pressed to get this thing passed. It'll be interesting to see if Mike Johnson decides to put it up for a vote even though he may not be sure whether it will pass. Nancy Pelosi would have never done that, but Mike Johnson has done it before. So we'll see. Personally, I think it's going to be hard-pressed to get something like this passed. Normally, when they're going to make a cut like to Medicaid or some big issue, they try to slide it under the radar. And they did with this bill because they didn't mention Medicare or Medicaid or anything like that. But if you look closely at the bill and the departments they want to cut, it's inevitable that they would cut Medicaid. And I got to tell you, I've said before, if you mess with Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security, you're going to have a fucking revolution in this country. People are going to get pissed. People who are already struggling, and you have your government take away everything from you. That's not going to land well, and it's going to cause some problems. There is no question about it. Now, regarding the tariffs, Donald Trump made kind of a bold claim, and I find this one funny. The bold claim about the projected efficacy of his sky-high tariffs, which essentially kicked off a trade war and rattled the U.S. stock market, as we're seeing today. On Sunday morning, Trump vowed in a post on Truth Social that income taxes for many Americans will be substantially reduced or completely eliminated in the wake of the tariffs. Now, here's a guy that's nervous. He's nervous that people are starting to think twice about the tariffs, and it's about fucking time, to be perfectly honest with you. But he's got to do something. So what he's suggesting is that with these tariffs, guess what? Anybody making under $150,000 won't pay taxes. No taxes, zero taxes. Well, I can tell you something, tariffs aren't going to help. And he's not going to be able to remove federal taxes from everybody under $150,000. The only way that happens is if everybody loses their job and there is no taxes to take from income they're not getting. But to suggest that is just absolutely silly. And it tells me that that he's desperate at this point. This is what he said, when tariffs cut in, many people's income taxes will be substantially reduced, maybe even completely eliminated, he wrote. Focus will be on people making less than $200,000 a year. Also, massive numbers of jobs are already being created. Not true. With new plants and factories currently being built or planned. Trump added, it will be a bonanza for America. The eternal or external revenue service is happening. External revenue service is his little fucking bullshit thing that he decided to try to pull off. But here's, manufacturers coming back here. Guess what? Subaru, who has a plant in America, who produces the Outback, and most of what they produce here in this country is sold to Canada. So it makes no sense for them to be here any longer. They are pulling out from America and they're going to Japan and they will start building the Outbacks there. So nice job, Donnie. Nice fucking job. Here's another silly and abhorrent story. Secretary of State Marco Rubio defended the deportation of 3 children who are U.S. citizens, claiming the mothers could have made their kids stay behind. How would you do that? Those children are U.S. citizens, Rubio said on Sunday's episode of Meet the Press. They can come back into the United States if their father or someone here who wants to assume them. But ultimately, who was deported was their mothers who were here illegally. The children just went with their mothers. Oh, well, that makes it all the better. The bottom line is you deported U.S. citizens without due process. You think you would be a little more sensitive to that with a big issue with Garcia and the courts and the Supreme Courts. This is a stupid thing about Donald Trump, and this is typical of him too. When you get caught doing something and you get your hand slapped, or you might even get in more trouble, you would think you would stop doing that, at least temporarily, until you can get it figured out. They don't. They just fucking double down. They just keep doing it. They aren't even thinking about it. Now, according to the Washington Post, the 3 children were from 2 different families, aged 2, 4, and 7, and deported early Friday. Their lawyers said both families were taken into custody while attending routine check-ins this week in New Orleans as part of the Intensive Supervision Appearance Program, which allows individuals to remain in their communities while undergoing immigration proceedings. They were then taken to Alexandria, Louisiana, a 3-hour drive from New Orleans, and put on a flight to Honduras, all while preventing any communication with any members of their family and, of course, no due process. This is starting to hit home, too, because the polling is showing they're not too, the vast majority of people, 53, 54%, are not happy with what Donald Trump is doing with regards to immigration. Interesting. Now, reacting to new polling that shows Donald Trump's approval ratings are cratering, a longtime GOP insider claimed the embattled president's slide with voters will continue unless he makes major changes. Now, he may make major changes, but what we know of Donald Trump is that they will be bad changes. So even if he does make changes, but he makes worse changes, it's not going to help. Now, appearing on MSNBC's The Weekend, GOP strategist Brendan Buck took issue with co-host Michael Steele, who told the panel to slow down their enthusiasm over the president's growing unpopularity. Obviously, it's just a snapshot, but I certainly don't think it's going to get better for him anytime soon. Yeah, Michael Steele is trying to be cautious, carefully cautious. But as I've told you before, Donald Trump, one thing you can count on with Donald Trump, he will always fuck up. And when he fucks up and he gets flustered, he fucks up worse. That's what he does. So I understand Michael Steele wanting to be careful about his demise. But Donald Trump is in a classic death spiral that malignant narcissists always seem to end up in. Yeah, he's in trouble, and Donald Trump doesn't have the wherewithal to pull out of it. Now, Trump said on Sunday he voiced disappointment in Russia while urging Russian President Vladimir Putin to stop shooting and sign a U.S. brokered peace deal to end the war. Well, I want him to stop shooting, sit down and sign a deal, told Trump reporters when asked what he wants the Russian leader to do at this moment. We have the confines of a deal, the concept of a deal. We've heard that before, I believe, and I want him to sign it and be done with it, the president added. I don't think they have a deal. Vladimir Putin wants to take over and own parts of Ukraine, and Zelensky doesn't want to give any of it. Donald Trump is frustrated because he thought he could just pop in there, wrap this thing up, and get the Nobel Peace Prize. That's really what he thought. He thought that Zelensky would be more pliable and willing to go along with what he said because Donald Trump's all powerful and a tough guy. That's what he thought. Well, Zelensky didn't do that. And then when he tried to get Vladimir Putin to pull back a little bit in order to get this deal done, Vladimir Putin just made it more complex. He threw things in at the last minute that they hadn't been talking about, as Vladimir Putin tends to do. Now, the thing about it is Vladimir Putin is an evil motherfucker. There is no question about that. But he's also very smart. He is a master at manipulating people, which isn't saying much because Donald Trump is probably the easiest manipulated human on the face of this earth. He's very transparent. You pat him on the head, you pat him on the butt, you tell him he's a great guy, and he'll do whatever you want. Trouble is, he's got another party, Zelensky. Vladimir Putin will tell him, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. And of course, Donald Trump does everything that Vladimir Putin suggests, but it doesn't do any good because Zelensky isn't going to give an inch. It's much like the Chinese situation. They could negotiate, but they don't trust Donald Trump. And if you don't trust Donald Trump, what's the point of negotiating? And if you don't negotiate, you don't get a fucking deal. That's just it. Trump reiterated his frustration with Putin after the Russia last week launched its deadliest attack on the city of Kyiv in 9 months. They're talking about a peace deal, and Russia pretty much shoves it in Donald Trump's face and does this vicious attack on citizens, not military personnel. The missile and drone strikes killed at least 9 people and wounded more than 70, including 6 children, according to Ukraine officials. Trump says, I was very disappointed that missiles were flying. Trump said later, he added he was surprised and disappointed, very disappointed, that they did the bombing of those places after the discussion. What do you think was going to happen, Donnie? You trusted Vladimir Putin? Is that what you did? Well, if you trusted Vladimir Putin, you're a dumber motherfucker than I ever imagined. And that's hard to do because I've always known you're dumb. It's one thing to side with Vladimir Putin, but if you're trusting Vladimir Putin, you're making a drastic mistake. Donald Trump even suggested, I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's just tapping me off, which I think he meant playing me off. And you think, Donnie? You think that's what he's doing? Because that's what he's been doing for the last 10 years since you've been in the political lexicon. He's been playing you. He's always been playing you. He's taken you for a ride, and God knows the damage you've caused because of your ties to Vladimir Putin. And then you got Marco Rubio, and you got all the people in the cabinet that support what Donald Trump is doing. My greatest concern is because we have little or no national security and we have complicity with Russia and Vladimir Putin. I'm just waiting for something horrific to happen. And then we'll see what Donald Trump will do. Donald Trump won't do anything unless it benefits him. And if Vladimir Putin is somehow responsible for it, he's going to let Vladimir Putin off the hook because that's just what the motherfucker does. So, I don't know. It's very frustrating to watch. It's almost surreal to think that this country has gotten to this point where we are complicit with Russia and the rest of the country hates us. I mean, you saw it at the funeral for Pope Francis. Everybody tried to avoid Donald Trump. Nobody wants to stand near him because he's toxic. And anybody that gives the indication that they might be friendly or talking to Donald Trump is going to pay the price. They're going to get canceled in their own right. So Donnie loves being the center of attention and he loves the adulation. He's not getting that now, yet he is the center of attention because he's a dope. He's an idiot. People hate him. And this has got to be driving Donald Trump a little fucking nuts at this point because it's the absolute opposite of what he thrives on. All right. As promised, we have some emails as well. So let's get to them. First one says, I would like to share my thoughts on the podcast where you and your guest discussed autistic individuals. This episode truly resonated with me, although I'm not autistic. I consider myself to be different. I had a stroke that paralyzed the right side of my body, which causes me to walk with a limp since one of my legs is longer than the other. Additionally, I have limited use of my right arm. Despite these challenges, I have worked throughout my life. I got my first job by volunteering for 3 months at a state facility. After maintaining a regular schedule, I was hired as a full-time staff member. Throughout my career, I have worked with individuals who have both severe and mild intellectual disabilities, as well as those who are criminally insane. It is important to recognize that people with severe intellectual disabilities can lead somewhat normal lives in a group home setting with 24-hour supervision. Those with mild intellectual disabilities can often live independently with an appropriate medication regimen and support of staff. Both groups attend adult training centers where they learn job skills. Some jobs involve walking on carpets to evaluate their durability, while others participate in yard maintenance crews. Working with individuals who are criminally insane is entirely different, as they have pending felony charges to contend with. I remember working at a state facility that was set up like a jail. Once a coworker locked me in the control room just to see if I could open the door, as it takes two hands to operate. They were surprised when I managed to open the door. Now I'm semi-retired and working in a hospital, and I embrace my differences. John. I think John makes a great point. Disabilities are one thing, differences are another. We all have limitations in our life, some of them more apparent and some of them less apparent, but we all have them to a certain extent. We need to look at people's disabilities or limitations and just understand that we all have something that we have to contend with. John, I appreciate your story, and I'm glad things have worked out well for you in your career and future. Um, I like the idea that I hear that you're semi-retired. Wait till you get fully retired. That's the shit. All right, the next one says, Hi, Mike. Happy Easter. Peace to all. I'm forwarding this piece by Robert Reich, one of my heroes. I think it is a roadmap to how to stay strong and win this war we're in. Strength in numbers. Here is hoping sanity, love, and acceptance wins. Keep talking. Gina from Massachusetts. Now, obviously, I don't have the clip for you, but you know who Robert Reich is. And I think he's right on target, something we've been talking about, that we need numbers and we need people to be loud. That worked for the Republicans for the last 4 years. So why not take a page from their little fucking roadmap and do the same thing? And it's good because we are starting to see those things. We are starting to see people showing up at protests. We're seeing the polls dropping for Donald Trump. We are even seeing Republicans going, yeah, that's a little too far. So we're headed the right way. And Robert Reich, he is a brilliant guy, and I'd love to see him in politics at this point. I don't know how well he'd fit in with this shit show, but he does make some great points and has some great insights to what's happening. Thank you, Gina. The next one says, Hi, Mike. Sitting here watching the latest TikTok live on YouTube. I am Pacific time zone, so always happy when you load it up around 10 my time. I stay up late like you. I haven't discussed this with TJ yet, but our little brother Luke raised a good point yesterday. So this is TJ, the plumber's brother, who has been writing off and on. The MS-13 wasn't meant to be photoshopped onto Garcia's hand. They attempted to place that over each individual tattoo to decipher in their minds what each tattoo represents. So the M is above the marijuana leaf, marijuana equals M, and then the S is over the smiley face equals S. Then there was the one over the cross, so in MAGA minds, the cross is supposed to be 1 in 13. And of course, the skull, for whatever reason, is supposed to be 3, so it spells MS-13. That sounds like a bit of a stretch, but I get your point. Okay, whatever, MAGA. I need to speak to TJ about it because Luke was correct. The black letter's not supposed to be actual tats, but those were folios, feel the tats represents. Anyway, thank you for the nightly podcast. Cheers, Liam, who is TJ's brother. Thank you. You make some great points. And the moment Donald Trump held up that picture where it said MS-13 in clear letters, you had to know it was bullshit. Donald Trump is a liar. He was getting called out and he had to try to make it look like he was right. So he's not above using uh, Sharpie on a map for hurricanes or photoshopping something or doing whatever they did. The whole thing was ridiculous, whether it was a Photoshop tattoo or whether it was some kind of code that they were trying to decipher. Both are bullshit. Thank you, Liam. All right, this one says, Hi, Boomer. Jackie here from Brocass, Alabama. I just read that Christy Nome was so distracted in a restaurant that someone stole her purse and her sensitive DHS access badge and $3,000. How safe do we feel when this moron can't keep up her own purse safe? Like you said, they will continue to fuck up, Jacqueline. Yeah, they do. There was a lot of conspiracy thoughts about this too. What else did she have in the purse? But it is a little disconcerting to know that she has Secret Service or security anyway around her. She's in a restaurant. Um, I mean, if you're head of the Department of Homeland Security, if security is your deal, why would you put your purse under your chair? For fuck's sake. That's just flat out stupid. And it goes to what we've said before about these clowns. They are incompetent and they will continue to be incompetent. Whether something else comes out of this, I don't know. Probably not. Even if something did come out of it, chances are we're not going to hear it. But I did hear that they caught the guy who did it, or at least they claim to. No doubt he's probably brown and an illegal immigrant to substantiate the bullshit they keep claiming. But we don't know that yet. We'll see who it was that stole it. Apparently, he wore a dark outfit because somebody with a dark outfit isn't suspicious at all. He had his back to Kristi Noem, and somehow with his foot, he got the purse. Now, he might have just been a petty fucking thief, had no idea who this was. But again, if we've got somebody in this country that's responsible for security, how about securing your fucking purse for Christ's sake? Okay, this one says, Hey Boomer, I saw your podcast on YouTube talking about the sex abuse in the Catholic Church. She mentioned the Mormons and their sexual abuse history. Here is a link that keeps track of lawsuits filed by victims. You might want to check it out. Enjoy your shit as always, Gordy. Well, thank you, Gordy. Um, we know about the stories in the Catholic Church, but then we hear stories about the Baptist Church. The guest brought up the Mormon Church, and I hadn't heard those stories. But I think anytime you have a group of people trying to maintain power, because that's what religions do, they collect money and they try to attain power, unfortunately. At least from my experience. Now, I'm not going to say all religions do that or all churches do that, but my experience has been very negative with churches. And I've just come to the understanding that I can believe in God and I can do those things without having to go to a middleman, meaning a priest or a minister or something along those lines. So, Gordy, thank you for that. Um, Next up. Hey, Mike, I know you have been asking about the Supreme Court's ability to reverse its ruling on granting Trump complete immunity from indictment when performing official acts. I've done some research on this, and while they cannot self trigger a reversal on their own decision, if a new case appeal came before them that challenged the notion of the president having immunity against being charged with crimes related to official acts currently decided in Trump v. United States, brought by the special counsel Jack Smith, they could overturn their own decision and reverse the precedent. Clearly, the case is not going to originate anywhere in the federal government, given the current loyalist power hold on the Justice Department. However, based on my research, if a state's attorney general could bring a lawsuit against the United States government showing that the state was suffered direct harm, i.e., established legal standing by the illegal actions of a president, it may be provided that opportunity. Feels like a long shot, but at least figured it was worth sharing my brief research on the matter. What are your thoughts on the likelihood of this? Also, wonder if any of the current lawsuits in the courts originating from the state attorneys general are striving for this as a secondary goal. Best, Boston Dave. And we talked to Boston Dave on a live recently. It's distinctly possible that might be tied into some of the lawsuits we currently have. There's 12 or 13 states that are suing Donald Trump over tariffs, over immigration, and that sort of thing. That could come in play. I think another thing that could be done is that Congress create a bill establishing accountability for a president. They could do that. I think once Donald Trump is gone, that is going to be changed very quickly. People aren't going to want to experience what they've experienced in this particular presidency ever fucking again. And if the Democrats have any power, and I assume they will in Congress in 2026, you may very well see something like that. And of course, if a bill is presented like that or a law is passed, it'll probably be taken to the Supreme Court. And they're going to be hard pressed to overturn that bill because the Supreme Court doesn't make laws. They enforce laws or they interpret laws. So unless it has something to do that's totally contrary to the Constitution, it's going to be hard pressed for them to not agree with it. And hopefully they're being very careful when they're trying to do this because we've got some problems with the Supreme Court as of late. There's a lot of changes that have to be made, and those changes will be made ultimately. We just don't know when. Sooner, the fucking better. Next one says, hey, Mike, loving the content and the episodes. Keep up the great work. Like I said in my last email, the hair on my neck keeps standing up, so hopefully it means like last time. Abe will soon be back on the show. Fuck Trump and the Red Hats. Fuck Trump and the Red Hats all the way. Matt. I haven't talked to Abe lately, but I should. I should reach out to him. I love Abe. He has some contrary thoughts on things that I do, but I don't have a problem if people think differently than I do. At least have a point and be smart enough to explain your point. I'm willing to listen, and if I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong. We don't always see eye to eye on anything, but I love Abe and had a chance to meet him in person in Los Angeles. And hopefully we'll get him back on the show again. I will reach out to him and see if he's available or amenable to coming on the show. All right, the next one says, hi, Boomer. I thought you might find this interesting. February, DEI was cut. That was Black History Month. Interesting. March, Women's History Month. The SAVE Act is announced. April is Autism Awareness Month. RFK announced he wants to have a database for people with autism. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Is there going to be a call for another database? And don't forget that June is Pride Month. It's interesting, those connections. Donald Trump and his team are so simple-minded, it wouldn't surprise me at all that this catches their attention, so it gives them the idea to go after it if they're trying to make a point. She goes on to say, does anyone else see a pattern here? Laura, yeah, I see a pattern, all right. It's not surprising when you're looking at Donald Trump and this dumb fuck. Like I say, they're incompetent. And I wouldn't put anything past them at this point. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense, Laura. Next up says, hi, Mike. Listening to your TikTok live podcast, the subject of the stock market and bonds came up. Tangent to this is BRICS, that is spreading through the world. BRICS is comprised of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and 10 other partner countries, with another 20 waiting to onboard. The main goal is to surpass American influence in the world. For decades, China has been investing in African and South African countries, forming bonds and spreading goodwill. You know, a function the USA used to do. Additionally, China, along with its new Silk Road, has established an efficient transactional system to bypass the SWIFT system, used internationally for decades. The USD has been the currency of choice used by SWIFT. Now, China recently provided goods and services to India and other South American countries financed in yuan, not dollars. Between Trump's isolationist tendencies and China flexing its muscles, the world will leave the United States behind. Remember, Russia and China are the leading partners in BRICS with the same goal to beat the USA. Trump is expediting the process without realizing it. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, Paul, you make a great point. These countries have been trying to usurp the United States for many years. Fortunately, we've had some decent leadership, and they have not been allowed to do that. It's a different situation now. Donald Trump is throwing caution to the wind, not caring or not understanding what's going on. And these people have an opportunity to do this to us without any retribution, because Donald Trump's too stupid to see it. So Donald Trump is, in fact, helping these people do whatever they want to do to harm this country. You need to know that. You need to understand that. Donald Trump is a dangerous man on many levels, economically, internationally, humanitarian-wise. He's a dangerous man. It's not just me not liking Donald Trump, and it's not just me not liking Republicans. Put all that aside. As an individual with the amount of power he has, he is incredibly dangerous. All right, the next one. Hey, Mike, I haven't written much lately, mostly due to your change in format. I didn't change the format because I don't have a format. I do what I do. Don't get me wrong, I like the new format. There's just not a whole lot of time for emails. Yeah, it's harder to get the emails in. I will grant you that. However, I have a question that I can't seem to find an answer to anywhere and thought you could help. After the 9-0 SCOTUS ruling, which the diapered one mocks and ignores, can't they reopen the presidential immunity ruling and overturn it? It seems to me this would reestablish our three-tier system, but I don't know. Maybe the ship has already sailed. Do they not have the power to change their own ruling? Keep up the fight, Philly Paul. Well, Philly Paul, I think the previous emailer or earlier emailer pointed that out. And I'll be honest, I don't know exactly what the process would be. Can they change their ruling? I think there has to be another case, like the emailer said, in order to do that. But that's not to be said that that's not going to happen. It could very well happen. So I don't know exactly, but I tell you what I will do. I will look into it because it's a good point, and it would give us some hope if, in fact, that was a possibility. Hey, Mike, I've been silent for a while, though I listen to your podcast every day. If I knew how to find you to watch live, I probably would, but I'm not that tech savvy. I have a question that maybe you or one of your listeners may have an answer to. There must be 50 court cases going on now where states or unions or corporations have sued Trump or his administration to stop his illegal and unconstitutional actions, or judges have placed injunctions on him. My question, what legal office defends the president? Is it the Office of Legal Counsel? How many lawyers can they have? Can he direct the Justice Department to defend him? They should be prosecuting him. We're sure getting an education on workings of government, whether we want to or not. My money is on the Constitution. Keep doing what you're doing. Scott from Redneck County, Pennsylvania. Yes, the DOJ should be doing the prosecution, but they're not going to. Not as long as Pam Bondi and the rest of the Trump-fucks that run the DOJ and that allow Donald Trump to control the DOJ. That's not what's supposed to happen, but therein lies the problem. Donald Trump, I think, would have a personal lawyer, and I think they're lawyers for the office of the president. Whether that's the name you gave me or not, I'm not sure. DOJ should not be serving as Donald Trump's lawyers. They should not be doing that. That said, that's exactly what's happening because of who is the Attorney General. So, yeah, Pam Bondi should be looking into a lot of things like the leaks during Signalgate. She's more concerned about the people who leaked the fact that these dumb fucks were leaking. It's unfortunate, but it's something we have to live with at this point. Next up, hi, Mike. Still loving your podcast. This week in Australia is the last week before our federal election, and the Liberals, same as your Republican Party, are trying to copy Trump's Doge policies. However, they are backpedaling fast as voters complain about their planned cuts to medical programs and prescription subsidies. More than 50% usually vote in the 2 weeks before the election here. Excuse me. Australian WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange was welcomed at the Pope funeral. Pope Francis was truly an ally in the fight for Julian's freedom. We're hoping that China will send their electricals to Australia and buy our beef instead of trading with the U.S., but that is yet to be confirmed. I think the bet is that they probably will. If not, we will be sucked back into the predicted global recession caused by Trump. Let's hope he changes his tariff policies soon. Tariffs won't bring in the revenue he hopes will replace income tax, not nearly enough. He can't help his billionaire friends and reduce the foreign debt at the same time. Have a good week. Dr. Judy, Australia. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Judy. I appreciate that. It's always good to hear from the emails. And, you know, like I said, I haven't changed my format. I just do what I do when I'm doing it. The whole point of doing this was to be in opposition of what I used to have to do in radio. You had to follow procedures and policies. And, you know, I understand that. You work for somebody else. They want you to do something. But when they're stupid and the stuff doesn't work, I always had a problem with that. Some people might say I have a problem with authority. And the fact is, I don't. I don't have a problem with authority. I have a problem with certain authority. If I have somebody who knows more than I do and can offer me some insight, I'm more than happy to defer to them and listen to them and do what they say. But all too often, certainly in the radio business, you get some young kid who doesn't have any experience, but now has a boss's job and feels like he has to exercise his power. I don't do well with those folks. And in my job, my last job where I was a traffic reporter, I was good enough at it where most people just left me alone until, well, they didn't. And that's when I kind of retired unceremoniously. So what I do here on the show, there is no planning really. I mean, in a show like this, I pull out the emails because I want to read those. I do appreciate and respect people who send the emails. It may seem like I don't do them as much, and maybe I don't. I'm getting less emails, maybe because of the way the show is. But don't think that doesn't mean I don't want your input. I absolutely want your input. Absolutely. That's why I do the lives and I bring people up. That's why I tell anybody who's listening to this program, you are qualified to come on as a guest and we can talk about things. I know it's not comfortable for a lot of folks, but that opportunity, that offer is there for you. When I started the show, I thought about having a co-host. that I couldn't think of who could commit the time that I wanted to commit to it. Um, I thought about getting the standard guest of people trying to sell podcasts and books and stuff like that, and I didn't see that as much value. So by having listeners on, um, I'm glad it worked out the way it worked out because I knew it would. A lot of people didn't think it would, but I knew it was kind of akin to a old time call-in talk show, except we would only have one caller being the guest or a couple of guests. But in terms of format, I'm just doing what I do, and there's going to be the show will morph into different things as more people listen and more people want to participate. The point isn't to have a format. I don't think a format is necessary in this theater. Formats are for radio stations, and if you want to listen to a radio show, turn on the fucking radio. This is meant to be a conversation amongst folks of a like mind. Hopefully, trying to find some answers or make enough noise to try to influence some folks, politicians mostly. That's really what this is. So there'll never be a format to it. If something comes along and it looks fun and it looks entertaining and informative, I'm going to fucking do it. I'm going to do it like when we had those young kids on who had that platform called Political Playlist. Now, they were trying to promote their platform, and I understand that. But they're also very smart kids, and there was a lot to be gained from them, and I enjoyed doing the show immensely. But I also think their platform was valuable. The platform, Political Playlist, check it out if you can. Basically is appealing to young folks, and I think that's a good idea because the young folks are going to be taking control in 2028, and we need them informed. They were also trying to promote younger politicians, and I think that's a good idea too. Chuck Schumer wrote a strong letter to President Trump, and he got nothing but his ass kicked about that. Yeah, Chuck Schumer being tough. I don't think that's a thing. Anyway, on this platform, you can go in and put your address or your zip code or something, and they will tell you which young representatives you have in your district. And once you know who those people are, then what they do is they compile kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever it is, they compile um, information about what those people are doing and what they're trying to do in Congress. And I think that's important because there's a lot of people we hear from every day, the AOCs, the Jasmine Crockett's, but there's a lot of young people in Congress right now that are doing some good work. We just don't know who they are. And that's the whole fucking game when it comes to politics. Name recognition. So they're trying to get some name recognition for some of the young people in Congress, and I think it's a good idea. So that's why I decided to have them on the show. You want to hear something interesting? Um, One of the guests, Anna Muskie Goldwyn, she was a young lady on the show, and then there was Michael on the other side, Michael Kristoff. They were both on the show, and they are both writers, and I think Michael's also a director in Hollywood. They're young people trying to get started, and they've done some pretty impressive stuff. Trust me, I looked them up. But what I was taken by when I was looking up Ann Muskie Goldwyn, I had no idea when I was talking to her that her father is a television star of note. First of all, Tony Goldwyn is her father. Tony Goldwyn is the grandson of the Goldwyn that started Metro Goldwyn Mayer, the old movie company, the old movie studio. But Tony, if you don't know who Tony Goldwyn is, you might now because the thing he's most recently known for, and I think he's done plenty of other things, but he was in the TV show Scandal. You remember him? He was the president of the United States in Scandal, and he's the one that had the affair with Kerry Washington. It's pretty crazy. Um, Anna's mom is a production director of note too. She's done some big movies, and her mom and dad have been married for like 35 years. That's pretty impressive in Hollywood. And I was just thinking to myself, what a good gig Tony Goldwyn must have. I mean, think about that. Have a long-term marriage. I have a long-term marriage. And that's a wonderful thing. If you can get to the point where you've been married 30 years, things get a lot easier in marriage. But Tony Goldwyn has got this long-term marriage with this talented, wonderful woman, Anna Muskie Goldwyn's mom. But he, for a period of time, got to make out with Kerry Washington every fucking week. Now that's a good gig. That's a good gig in anybody's book. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day. We've got more guests coming up. We got more lives coming up. We got all kinds of shit coming up. So thanks for tolerating me today on my own. Mike and his little lonesome podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.